to KUTV Primetime News this first Thursday of the month May, the year 2023. Indeed, we have much and more lined up for you this particular night, including our top discussion tonight, the Shakahola Shoka. And of course, we'll be talking to the Executive Director of Haki Africa, HUSSEIN, KHALID, to explore about what could have possibly gone wrong, even as the country seek answers to what transpired. And our team has been working round the clock to bring you up to speed with what is happening locally and across the globe in terms of political, business, and sports. But first thing first, here is our top stories tonight. Tonight, Sabina Chege out, not so fast, but you have 30 days to iron out your differences. National Speaker Moses Wetangula tells Azimio. Services closer to your fingertips. Fingo Africa launches mobile app to ease banking services. Plus, Taste of Freedom. Embattled Pastor Ezekiel breathes fresh air as court release him on bond. Also tonight, Kenyatta National Hospital conducts hernia and undescended testicle surgery as parents encouraged to take NHIF cover. Many thanks for joining us once again. My name is AUMA Evans and welcome to the broadcast. Remember, you can follow this particular broadcast on all of our social media platforms, on Facebook at KUTV Kenya, on Twitter at KUTV_Kenya, at AUMA Evans. Remember to use the hashtag #PrimeTimeNews. Of course, we invite your feedback. Keep talking to us, especially on our top discussion tonight. Now, our news begins right now. The National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has issued his ruling regarding the removal of Sabina Chege as the Deputy Minority Chief Whip, saying that the minority party had presented insufficient report seeking the ouster of her. Wetangula has, however, resolved that the minority party has 30 days to submit Sabina Chege's replacement if they wish to do so. KUTV's political affair reporter James Enrique with more details.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
In his ruling regarding the removal of Sabina Chege as the Deputy Minority Chief Whip, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has ruled that the report tabled before him by the Minority Leader P. Wandai was not sufficient. The Speaker stated that in the event of occurrence of disagreement on a parliamentary party designated Chief Whip positions, the only possible change that can be made is to table a replacement.
That once a parliamentary party has designated a whip or a deputy whip, the only subsequent change that the parliamentary party may make with regard to the two positions is a replacement of the person designated as a whip or deputy whip.
According to Wetangula's ruling, the minority party has of 30 days to submit a sufficient report to the House and the replacement of Sabina Chege as the Deputy Minority Chief Whip if they wish to do so.
That I hereby grant the minority party a period of 30 days from today within which to convey appropriate communication on the replacement of its minority whip if it wishes.
He further added that the Jubilee Party is an independent parliamentary party since it fully corresponds to the parliamentary party thresholds requirements. He also directed that Jubilee resolve their disputes and submit a report to the House once the House resumes its business in June.
That whereas the Jubilee Party meets the threshold to be recognized as a parliamentary party pursuant to Standing Order 20A1, I am hesitant to invoke this provision given the myriad correspondence received from the party with respect to its leadership.
The minority party leaders, however, argued that the Speaker's ruling was inappropriate noting that Speaker Wetangula should have first communicated Sabina Chege's removal and not a replacement.
It would have been advisable that you confirm first the removal of the Honorable Sabina Chege to give us opportunity to make her replacement.
Mr. Speaker, why don't you please allow that we be given an opportunity to look for the replacement, because we have already communicated the removal.
Wetangula, however, insisted that the ruling he had already made was a one-way directive that the minority party aimed to follow. The plenary sessions in the National Assembly will resume in 30 days as the members of parliament break for their parliamentary recess. James Mureki Mwenda, KUTV.
Now, politics aside, President William Ruto has officially launched the Fingo Africa mobile application, which is used to open bank accounts. The app was launched in cooperation with the EcoBank. President Ruto says that the government aims to boost youth employment through digitization, that the government services will have been digitized by the end of this year. Joseph Case paints us a picture of what could be a game changer in the banking sector.
President William Ruto has announced that by the end of this year, all the government services will have been digitized. Ruto says that the bottom-up economic model is set to benefit many youths who graduate from various tertiary institutions every year. The president was speaking while presiding over the launch of the Fingo mobile application.
Our entire bottom-up agenda for economic transformation is aimed at creating tens of millions of new jobs to absorb the many young skilled Kenyans who graduate from our tertiary institutions every year, and to radically enhance the productivity of our labor.
The president has reiterated that Kenya should embrace technology and that the newly launched Fingo mobile application will make it easy for young people in the continent to access more job opportunities, and that it will go a long way in contributing to the nation's digitization goals. He says that the government will support any efforts to boost technology.
The single biggest asset that we have as a nation is our human capital. That human capital is 75% young, and therefore the single biggest resource is our human capital represented by our young people.
Fingo Africa CEO Kero Muhaya has stated that the application was started 3 years ago and that it is meant to ensure ease in creating bank accounts, cheap transactions, saving, and job creation. He has also advised the youth to invest in Africa instead of having to travel abroad in a bid to seek employment opportunities.
What does a young person do, or what can a young person do to make them successful in Africa and enable them to create wealth? Is it to start a business? Is it to attain an education? Perhaps it is to join employment. None of these are correct. The single greatest action a young African can perform in Africa to create wealth for themselves and for their families is to leave.
Through the Fingo mobile application, one can create a bank account in less than 4 minutes without necessarily having to visit a bank or its branch. Joseph Kess, KUTV.
Right, freedom at last. Embattled Pastor Ezekiel Odero is now a free man. This is after Shanzu Law Court released him on 3 million bond or a cash bail of 1.5 million. The Mavueni-based pastor was detained in police custody of alleged murder, aiding suicide, abduction, and radicalization, crime against humanity, child cruelty, fraud, and money laundering. Pastor Ezekiel's war started after being linked to Pastor Paul Mackenzie, who allegedly manipulated his followers to starve to death in order to meet Jesus. His release comes after prosecution had applied to detain Pastor Ezekiel Odero for 30 days, citing fresh affidavit in case involving mass deaths. Right. Kenyatta National Hospital is carrying out, is carrying out hernia surgical project where pediatrics are operating on male children greatly affected by it. Hernia, which is profusion of organ or piece of tissue from its normally contained space, only affects male children below the age of 13. However, according to doctors, the disease should be addressed as fast as possible to prevent further damages.
Kenyatta National Hospital is conducting annual hernia and undescended testicle surgery on male children who are suffering from the two diseases. This is part of a project that is done every year as a way of minimizing the number of patients in need of the treatment. With proper early treatment, kids can manage its symptoms and continue to enjoy their daily activities. This is according to Kenyatta National Hospital pediatricians, who highlighted that if the kids do not undergo surgery, it can have a negative impact at adulthood.
We are still able to continue with our screening, so please, if you have this condition, you are welcome to our hospital, Kenyatta National Hospital. We will screen you, and we shall still continue doing these surgeries, not just this week, but the rest of the month.
The project is intended to benefit parents who have been struggling with their children due to lack of medication and funds to cater for treatment of the diseases. However, according to Caroline Mwenda, a pediatrician, the operations are being done to only those who have the NHIF card.
We have been prioritizing the patients who have their NHIF cards, and they are working, and this is also a plea to the public. Please, if you are able to, it's best to get your NHIF card, and that will be able to cater for the whole surgery.
According to some of the beneficiary parents, the operations have been successful, with a number of them stating that the project is beneficial for it has eased their struggles.
Nilikuja nikaanza process, nikapata daktari akanisaidia vizuri sana. Mpaka saa hii mtoto wangu amepelekwa theater, amerudi ako sawa. Nashukuru sana kwa hii project. Imeni help a lot.
Hapo kwa tumbo ilikuwa imeraruka na nini zake zinaanguka, lakini sasa wamemfanyia surgery. Wamemfanyia surgery na saa hii ako sawa. Anaweza kucheza na kucheka na kukula.
The parents have thanked Kenyatta National Hospital for coming up with such a project, encouraging parents with similar cases to avail themselves and get medication on the same.
Ako na uvimbe immediately after kitovu venye likatika. Nikamrudisha hospitali Pumwani, wakaniambia maybe nimlete huku. So huku ndio sasa nikaanza clinic, ikaenda ikipungua, but ikafika mahali kasemekana lazima ifanywe surgery. Ndio ikuwe sasa nini ipone kabisa.
With the prevalent cases of hernia conditions in the country, Kenyatta National Hospital has set out to conduct surgical procedures on young boys ranging from 1-year-olds to 13-year-olds in order to save them from life-threatening conditions caused by hernia. Arno Didem, KUTV, Nairobi.
Right, thank you so much, Arno Dida, for that comprehensive reporting. Now moving on. The Parliament, through the Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, JLAC, has resolved to extend the period for consideration of the nominees submitted by President William Ruto for appointment as members of the Judicial Service Commission for a period of 14 days from 31st May 2023. In yesterday's plenary session, the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula read a message where Isaac Ruto, who served as the governor of Bomet, has been appointed as a member of the Judicial Service Commission to represent public. In the same communication, President Ruto also had appointed Caroline Ajoga to serve in the same commission. If approved by Parliament, Ruto will fill the position of Mr. Felix Kosgei, who was appointed last year as the head of public service, while Mr. Ajoga will fill the position of Professor Olive Mugenda, whose term of 5 years will end this November. It is time to take our first break here on KUTV Primetime News. Remember, when we come back, plenty more to follow, including a big discussion tonight. Keep talking to us on all of our social media platforms. Remember, on Facebook, it's at KUTV Kenya, on Twitter, at KUTV_Kenya, at AUMA Evans. The hashtag always is Primetime News. See you in a bit.
Nambi, darling, let's go to the beach. Your parents are so worried about you.
Can you both stop talking at once? How do you want me to respect you?
Best part of all of this, it would just be you.
That didn't sound very good at all to me.
Nambi's mine. Dylan's out of the picture now.
She really wants to stop you from getting married to Nambi.
Then have it your own way. You can go and join Zahara.
Access to knowledge. Solution to unanswered questions.
And repossessing your property, intellectual or material.
This and more, only on Law Matters.
Maelfu na maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
The folks are going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
People pass vuguvugu. People pass ni idea.
Tazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na uasi wa ADF.
Kwa sasa wanatoa wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa.
Hapa ni kuna mmoja wa viongozi wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili.
Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili, ndio inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni Duniani Leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
Kurunzi ya kilimo huimarisha afya na uchumi endelevu katika jamii. Ni msingi mkubwa wa kipindi Boresha Kilimo. Kipindi hiki kinajikita katika teknolojia ya kisasa, utafiti na ushirikishaji wa wadau wa kilimo kuonyesha shughuli mbalimbali shambani. Kwa suluhu ya utoshelevu wa chakula, tazama Boresha Kilimo.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audiovisual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
Right, welcome back, and this is where we pick the conversation, our big conversation of today. We talk about matters to do with Shakahola Shoka, and I'm glad, of course, you're following us from wherever you are. There's a great conversation to pick it over from. Now, the barbaric, heinous, and inhuman act of Shakahola massacre is something you are more likely to see in a movie, not in our daily lives. The Shakahola massacre, perpetrated by self-proclaimed Pastor Paul Mackenzie of New Life International Church, continue to raise questions on the motive of killings. Where were the security agencies in the area, and whether we will ever know the full extent of what transpired, even as the search for survivors and answers continue. Now joining us in the discussion is Executive Director for Haki Africa, HUSSEIN KHALID. Of course, thank you so much, of course, for making time to speak to us on this very important discussion that we are having today. Well, what has transpired in Shakahola, in simple word, even some describe it, it can only be seen in a movie. It is a disaster. And this begs the question, how did it miss us?
That's a very good question, AUMA, and it's a question that even us as Haki Africa have been pondering about. Because as you are aware, in any given part of this country, we're supposed to have state authorities, you know, at different levels in charge of any given region in this country. If you look at the national level, of course, you have the Ministry of Interior. If you go down, you have the regional commissioners who are supposed to be in charge of their regions. If you go further down to the county level, you have the county commissioner. And even below that, the county commissioner, you have the DCCs, the ACCs. And it goes down to the chief, the sub-chief, and even further down to wazee wa mitaa or village elders. We also have community policing. We also have nyumba kumi. So the million-dollar question that you're asking is, and we agree with you, where were all these structures when people were being led to their deaths by starvation, when people were being buried in mass graves, children were missing from communities. Now we can confirm, you know, they lost their lives. So it's a very, very big question, and this basically shows that as a country, we do not yet have total control of what is happening, particularly at the grassroots level.
All right.
I think mostly we know what is happening at the national level, at best at the county level, but especially in rural communities, you know, it is very evident now that the authorities do not have the full details of what is happening. We're not talking about one person who died and got buried, or 10, or 50. This is over 100, and we have not even uncovered all the mass graves.
All right.
Yes.
Well, before we'll come to the security agencies later on, but as a man who has been on the ground, of course, and you have been in the front line, we have seen you during the rescue mission. Can you paint us a picture of what you are not aware right now, according to our assessment?
Well, right now, there is what we know, but there is also, as you've asked, what we are not fully aware about. First of all, what we don't know is how many people are still holed up in that forest, who may still be fasting, who may still be dying, who may still be buried, the same way as their fellow followers were buried. From what we understand is that the followers were hundreds. The ones that have been rescued are more or less than 40. The ones that have been buried and exhumed, maybe 110. So at most, what we can account for is 150. If we extend it so much, 200. And from the estimations of those who have been rescued, their relatives, they're saying there are a few hundreds more. So whether they have escaped that area, whether they're still within that area, that is something we still don't know. The second issue that we're still not aware of is how many have died so far and have been buried. Because the area in which the government has concentrated on in the last 1 or 2 weeks, if you follow closely what the followers are telling us, is that is just one of 2 or 3 other areas. And even in that one area, not all the mass graves have been opened up. So we still don't know how many remain buried. And as you said when you are introducing the program, will we ever get to know the extent to which this particular saga went? Probably not. There's a very high possibility we may never come to understand the magnitude, because some of those graves, especially after this thing has been brought to light, there's a very high possibility they have been buried secretly, and we may never get to know where they were.
All right. There is a question that actually is troubling many. When to fast until you die, that is something that it's out of reason, out of logic. But, the story is all about the two sides of the coin.
Yes.
We have at one hand the followers and, of course, the perpetrator who is Mr. Paul Mackenzie. But is it an issue or rather a case of brainwash or lack of education, or just ignorant? Because we have to look at the both sides of the coin.
That's a very good question, AUMA, and we have to interrogate that, and I hope that the National Counterterrorism Center and the Anti-Terror Police Unit, because they have termed this now to be a terror-related incident, will be investigating. But yes, it's hard to imagine a human being starving themselves to death, because this is what we are told, they were told, that this is not suicide. You're not taking a rope and tying it around your neck and hanging yourself. You're not taking a gun and shooting yourself. You're actually in worship. And that if you die, because fasting is a form of worship, if you die, you've died while in a form of worship, So the indoctrination, from what we understand, did not just happen within a week. This is something that was, worked on for years. These people were informed about this, they were told. That's why even those that we rescued, according to us, we feel we rescued, when we were bringing them, for first aid to assist them, they were adamant, they were like very categorical, they don't need any help, that they want to go, they want to ascend to heaven, that we are actually blocking them from their lifetime desire, to go to heaven. And I remember one lady, we even tried to, because she was extremely weak, extremely weak, almost on the verge of death. And we were trying to make her understand that we are trying to save you. And we tried to put some glucose water, because you can't feed her after she stays hungry for first aid. You can't do that. You have to slowly give her water first, glucose, so that she gets in. And she sealed her lips tight. And she refused any assistance. So we tried to, but you could tell she is, her lips, she doesn't want to open, because she's very clear in her mind that she wants to die and go to heaven.
All right.
And she's not the only one. There were others also where we went to rescue and said, we have come to spoil for them, that we are people who are against the Lord. They are supposed to go to heaven, and we are stopping them from going to heaven. So you're right, whether it's called brainwash, whether it's called indoctrination, but it is something that has very much sunk in them. And even those that have been rescued, even now, a few days later, I understand some are saying they want to go back to fasting, that they want to, continue with what they were doing so that they can go to heaven. So it's a very big question we are all asking ourselves. How did this man convince, and you're not talking of 5, 10, 15 people, we're talking of hundreds of people, to starve to death? If it was a one-off incident, you die, you shoot yourself, you're dead. But this is someone who will starve for several days, meaning they're going to see death coming. And they still believe in it, and they continue to do it. And the other question you've asked, is this a case of illiteracy? Not really, because initially, even for us, because when we broke this story to the world, even as we thought this guy was preying on some rural folks, families or individuals who are not very much exposed. Only later on to realize that some of his followers were GSU, former GSU officers, airline crew, air hostess. There were some Nigerians there. There was a medical officer. So it wasn't just, people you could term as illiterate. Some of them were very much exposed. Some of them were very well educated, and they were all, convinced to be part of this cult.
All right. According to autopsy report, of course, on the ongoing, the operation that has been done just to try and determine what actually could have transpired. According to the findings, one of them, especially to the minors, there is a case of suffocation. We have some, probably they might have been strangled. Does this, point to the inhuman aspect of it, and why would you subject a person, who is not willing, of course, to buy to your doctrine or the religion that you subscribe to?
Yeah, so most of those who are strangled and suffocated, according to the autopsy reports, are children. And when we spoke to some of those that were rescued and we were asking them what was happening, how did this happen, some of them did mention to us that, when someone is in that fasting, when it becomes too hard, now you're almost on the verge of death, it's possible for someone to change their minds. Right. Death is not anything pleasant. Even someone who puts a rope around his neck and is hanging, when it's now really squeezing your neck, one would try to pull themselves up. So they told us that they had among them those that they called wateule. These wateule were supposed to guard you, not to change your mind in that last minute, so that they were helping you to actually cross to heaven. So there is a possibility, I suspect, especially for those children, maybe their parents felt the children are undergoing so much torture, because I can imagine how that child would be crying, out of hunger, and maybe the parent would feel the child is really suffering and they would just end their lives. So there's a possibility that is what happened. There's a possibility those wateule are the ones who actually strangled the children so that they died. But there's also in the postmortem blunt trauma. Blunt trauma is where someone is hit by an object, and then that becomes the cause of death.
All right.
So right now we can only speculate. because that is what the autopsy tells us, but we can't say for sure. We don't know who actually strangled or suffocated the dead ones.
Well, this is the case of Paul Mackenzie, and now that you're coming to the security agencies. In 2017, Mackenzie was reported, of course, in Malindi Court, and of course, they were him and 20 others. And according prosecution wanted them to be detained at least for 30 days. Then another case that we could remember recently, actually, it was in March. When he was charged. He was reported about the 2 minors, the death of 2 minors. He was later released. Well, right now we are talking 100 and plus bodies so far, and nobody really knows the extent to which this could have, of course, gone, and how many bodies are still out there, and even the victim, even as the rescue mission continue. Now, this begs the question. We have the local chiefs, just like we mentioned, security agencies, we have leaders. Is it possible that this could have, bypassed them without any single knowledge until now at a crisis level like this?
Well, we've been on the ground, as you've correctly put it, and we have engaged some of these leaders, and we've asked those questions. Of course, now it's a blame game, this one pointing fingers, but the information that we have is that the local authorities, including the chief and the sub-chief, that they had noticed something was not right, and that they put it in their reports and they shared with their seniors. But there was no response from their seniors. And according to them, the best they could do is to give out these reports. We also have, as you've said, information that the local police were, in fact, the March case is where Haki Africa insisted that we have to rescue a boy, and the police were not very responsive, so we decided to go on our own. And when we managed to get the boy from the cult followers, we took him back to the police, and the boy explained what was happening there. That was when now the police started believing and said, okay, let's follow this up. Yeah, because we went there with the family, we went there with the victims, and we said, you have to do something. Listen to what they're telling you. Their child is in there. But they did not give us any support. They did not give any officer to go with us to rescue the boy. So we went there by ourselves. Now, only after we got the boy, and the boy said, in fact, 2 of his siblings had already been killed, or rather had died, and they've already been buried. That is when the police then decided to go to court. They arrested him in March, and took him to court for the killing of the 2. But then those 2, we didn't have any body, we didn't have any evidence. So the police, the court also could not hold him, because you're saying he has killed. Where's the evidence? Where are the bodies? Who has he killed? Yeah? Sorry for that. So it is at that level then when, we asked the courts actually decided, they issued an exhumation order. If you're saying people have been killed, here is an order, go and exhume the body so that we can have evidence. Then we can charge him with murder. But in the meantime, if there's no evidence of murder or anything, he was released on 10,000 shillings bond.
All right. Well, this is a matter that has even caught the attention of now the national top agent security forces.
Yes.
And in Senate, the Tana River Senator, that is Danson Mungatana, of course, will now chair the ad hoc committee. And this committee, of course, is mandated to investigate the role that Mackenzie played, and the team of his, with a team of his pastors, then the Kisii County Security Committee in it, in aiding, purportedly aiding and abetting the deaths of church followers. Is this, the right time, of course, to even point fingers to such things and even start to speculating at a time that we believe, like, in a country where we have top national security agencies, these are some of things that could have been prevented there. Why wait until it's out of hand so that you can try to solve issues?
I think what you're saying is very true. I mean, it's very late because we've lost lives, and it's unfortunate that the authorities did not act in good time. And now we have children, women, men who have met their deaths in very troubling ways. But then we say you want to learn from this experience so that it never happens again. So for purposes of learning, for purposes of understanding what happened, then I would say it is good to ask those questions so that we get the answers and we make sure that history does not repeat itself. Yeah, but you are right in that this is coming at the tail end when a lot of damage has been inflicted on so many. If you just look at the number of families that are presently searching for their loved ones, it's over 200, 300 that have so far come to register with Red Cross to say they suspect their kin might have been, in this cult. So, yeah, but, despite the fact that, the state authorities, the security authorities failed us, we still need to ask those questions so that, we can guard against something like this ever happening again.
All right. Well, do you have faith in the ongoing operation, of course, now that is being led by CS Interior, Professor Kithure Kindiki?
I would say so far they've done well. It's unfortunate that they have somehow decided to lock out key stakeholders, particularly the journalists, because the journalists were doing excellent work to show what truly happened. And the minimum we can do to the victims is to tell their story. Let the world know what happened to them. And then we fight for justice. So when you lock out journalists and they can't go in, or you say only the state is allowed to go in, then you raise unnecessary suspicion. Why don't you want people to go in? Are you hiding anything? If you're not hiding anything, why isn't it open? The way it was from the beginning, we could see the bodies being retrieved, and journalists were very responsible. They didn't use gory pictures to show to, the viewers. They were very responsible. They took what was allowable in media, within the media limits, and there wasn't anything unbecoming. So now, when they put these restrictions, post-mortem only state is going in, so we can't corroborate whatever they come out to tell us. If they say there are no organs removed, it's the state saying it. We don't know if it's true because we were not there. So if the state is trying to protect itself, we can't tell. We really can't tell, because now it is only the state that is witnessing, it is performing the post-mortem. So these are questions that we definitely need to ask. Whether we have faith, those who trust and believe in the state, they would say yes. But those who don't trust and believe in the state, they would say no. I mean, why are you hiding? Why don't you? It's a post-mortem exercise. The person is already dead. So why don't you want people to be there to witness, So these are valid questions that need to be asked, and, we hope that the state will respond and allow a transparent coverage of what happened there.
All right. Well, because of time, I'll give you now this as your, parting shot.
Thank you so much. First of all, let me appreciate KUTV. You're doing excellent work, and, for allowing Kenyans to understand what is happening and to come to terms with this, because it's a very difficult moment. I think many Kenyans are traumatized by what has happened here. And for me, I would ask my parting shot, ask religious institutions. I think it's time now they took the lead in enforcing self-regulation.
Right.
Let's not wait for the state to come to regulate. You as religious institutions can come forward and make sure you regulate and you guard against the likes of Pastor Mackenzie from tarnishing the image of our religious institutions.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you spoke about very key important, and we hope that the stakeholders, those concerned, will take keynote of what is happening and heed to your call. Actually, it's a passionate call and appeal, so that we can move forward as a nation and put all Shakahola massacre behind us. Of course, we take a short break here. When we come back, still we'll be transversing through many more stories, including our sports news. See you in a bit.
Technology, science, innovation, ICT, and research. These are the ingredients upon which the solutions to the 21st century problems are founded. In a world that is rapidly changing, it's all hands on deck to ensure a balance in all fields of life. Women, young and old, are also in the front line, breaking the glass ceiling, becoming thought leaders in the larger tech space. Not forgetting other societies marginalized. And when the tech Avengers come together, we inch closer to a much safer, efficient, and sustainable world. What we view as a norm in today's advanced world was just an idea, and for nostalgic reasons, we trace back to the iconic days to bring you the retro tech. On Tech Innovation Show, we encapsulate all the pillars of the fourth industrial revolution, decoded in a language, all for one for all. Every Monday at 8:30 as we push the mantra, keep learning something new each and every day. Only on KUTV, a new experience.
Kipindi hewani ni mitindo ya kipwani. Kama ilivyo kipindi hiki kinahusu nyimbo za tarab, chakacha, midwara, midundiko, bila kusahau mapishi. Ambao ndio uti wa mgongo wa pwani ya Afrika Mashariki.
Jamani, swaibu zangu mliopo maskani, hatuonani wenzangu, najua mwanitamani.
Hapa KUTV, nahoda mwendesha chombo cha baharini, yani ua linalonukia na kuvutia waridi tamu.
Alright, welcome back and thank you for keeping us company. Of course, this is where we continue with our news stories, and we do apologize for that. We'll go straight to the news, then we'll come back to sporty news later. Now, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is in Kenya for 2 days state visit. Mr. Guterres was treated to a state dinner at State House in Nairobi, hosted by President William Ruto. Our very own Felix Q reports on a day that two leaders deliberated on the Sudan's crisis and how to adapt clean energy.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres flew into the country on Wednesday for a 2-day state visit to meet President William Ruto and visit various United Nations installations in the country. On Wednesday evening, Guterres was treated to a state banquet by his host President William Ruto at the Nairobi State House.
In Sudan, in DRC, in many parts of the world, in Ukraine. But at the end of the day, it is still a wonderful and a beautiful world. And that is why we are here today to celebrate.
President Ruto recognized the critical role of the United Nations in promoting global cooperation, supporting sustainable development and addressing global challenges.
Kenya is proud of the United Nations offices in Nairobi and has invested heavily in the UN complex and Gigiri area's infrastructure. I call upon the leadership of the UN to strengthen the United Nations office in Nairobi to effectively extend its services to the global south.
The two leaders seized the opportunity to discuss the adoption of clean energy in Kenya as a means of countering the harrowing effect of climate change. The political crisis in Sudan was also on the table as Kenya joins other countries in pushing for lasting peace in Sudan. The visit by Guterres follows a leak from the United States Pentagon intelligence which indicated Mr. Guterres' deputy Amina Mohammed had reservation about President Ruto, a revelation that nearly strained. The visit by Guterres follows a leak from the United States Pentagon intelligence which indicated Mr. Guterres' deputy Amina Mohammed had reservations about President Ruto, a revelation that nearly stained Kenya's relation with the United Nations.
When sees today the tragedy of Sudan, It is clear your personal leadership, together with the countries of IGAD, together with the African Union, and we are fully ready to support it.
The visit by Gutierrez follows a leak from United States Pentagon intelligence which indicated Mr. Gutierrez's deputy Amina Mohammed had reservations about President Ruto, a revelation that nearly strained Kenya's relation with the United Nations. Ms. Amina would later say that she had been misquoted. From Kenya, Antonio Gutierrez will head to Tanzania. Ruth Wanjiru for KUTV.
Now, away from Nairobi, Narok County Chief Forester Emmanuel Kainai has been arraigned in Narok Law Court on charges of conspiracy to defeat justice after releasing a motor vehicle ferrying illegal logs without a valid permit. Kainai reportedly interfered with the execution of criminal process in a plot carried out with the help of Abraham Washira and Patrick Ndungu. The three have since been released on a bond of 300,000 each and one's surety. The matter will be due for mentioning on May 17, 2023.
Kiangazi ambao hatujaiona in 40 years. Na hii kiangazi kama kuna watu iliumiza ni sisi wa Masai. Ng'ombe yetu iliangamia. We lost 80% of our livestock. Na ndio sababu leo nimeona niwaite ndugu zangu ambao ni warika yangu.
Right, we do apologize for that mixed up, of course, bites and sound. Well, let's move on. A family in Nyamache sub-county, Kisii County, is embroiled in a standoff over cause of death of their kin. The disputed forced the police to exhume the body of the man who was buried 2 weeks ago after a named family member tipped them off of the alleged cover-up. The deceased, Vincent Tom, is said to have died due to excessive alcohol consumption, even as the rest of the family insist that they had already ironed out all their issues with the police prior to the burial.
A body of a Matatu tout who was buried 2 weeks ago in Nyamache sub-county has been exhumed following a court order requiring that the body be retrieved to help reveal the true cause of death. The man, identified as Vincent Tom, was initially reported to have died of excessive alcohol consumption, but one unnamed family member begged to differ. The unidentified family member is reported to have tipped off the police on claims of foul play over the king's death. This is according to Mr. Abima, a mortuary attendant from the Nyamache sub-county hospital. According to the family, any outstanding issues between the police and the family in regards to the burial had already been ironed out. The grandfather to the deceased has termed the exhumation exercise as a witch hunt, which he believed is meant to antagonize the family further.
Ni kwa sababu gani tunasema? Kwa sababu mmoja wa familia yao ya marehemu aliweza kulalamika kwamba marehemu aliuawa, na wengine wanasema alikunywa pombe akapatikana kwa barabara amesiliwa na pombe.
The deceased body had been found in Nyagusu Trading Center and was later ferried by police to the Nyamache sub-county hospital mortuary. The family insists that they consulted with the police before finalizing the burial process.
Nyamache tukaambiwa tu mwili mlete msika. Sasa tumeshangaa sana, serikali inakuja nataka kuondoa mwili hapa siku ya leo. Wameenda na mwili. Wanasema huo mwili ukufanywa postmortem. Sasa tunasema ya kwamba sisi tunangoja serikali ifanye uchunguzi wake venye nasema.
Prior to his death, Vincent Tom was a matatu conductor operating along the Kisii Nyagusu Road. Yvonne Kemuma, KUTV.
Now, the Kenya Sanitation Alliance held its 4th summit in Narok County, amid increasing cases of disease caused by poor sanitation as rains continue to fall in several parts of the country. The alliance, founded by Government of Kenya in collaboration with the Government of Japan and United States Agency for International Development, USAID, says that it's aiming at eliminating open defecation in the Narok County by the year 2025.
The head of Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, Wash Adan Mohammed, speaking at Zebu Hotel, says that the consortium has managed to put under control some preventable diseases which had frequently been reported and treated at primary health centers in the past.
50 to 60% of the diseases that are being reported in our primary health care. When I'm talking about the primary health care, I mean our dispensaries level 2 and our health centers level 3. Actually show that the diseases that are easily preventable.
Narok County Executive Member in charge of Health and Sanitation, Anthony Namugok, pointed out that the county government would help to improve sanitation.
The best performing county in terms of among the 15 counties on matters open defecation, that is elimination.
What AMREF is doing, because we are putting in 150 million Kenya shillings every year to put up water facilities and sanitation facilities.
AMREF continues to embrace and push for proper sanitation and hygiene to prevent sanitation-related diseases. The country has recorded cases of cholera outbreaks in some parts since the onset of the rains, an eventuality that has been blamed on poor sanitation. Dorothy Mosioka, KUTV.
Now it's time for the latest in the world of sports. Now, it's all system go for this year's African Women Club Championship slated to take place in Tunisia this month. Kenya representative, that is KCB, and Kenya Pipeline teams are set to jet off the country next week ahead of the continental outing. The defending champions KCB Volleyball Club will field a potent squad, according to head coach Japheth Munala.
Tunisia will host the Women's African Volleyball Club Championships, slated from May 19th to June 1st this year in the capital city of Tunis. The Tunisian coastal town of KHALID hosted the last championship that saw Kenya's KCB defeat Egypt's Al-Ahly 3-1 to win the title. Teams will be expected to arrive in Tunisia by May 13th, just in time for the technical meeting scheduled for May 14th. The action will be served off on May 15th and climax on May 25th. KCB volleyball team head coach Japheth Munala says his charges are set for the continental masterpiece.
So we are prepared well for any team that comes our way. So far so good. They are blending very well to our teams. And some of them have been the starting lineup or come in as a substitutes. So every player here is okay. The new players are gelling well with us. So we are hopeful that during before the end of this season, these new players would have fitted in the team very well.
The Bankers, who are the current holders of the prestigious annual Continental Tournament, will seek to retain the gong, and KCB captain Edith Swissa has said the team is well prepared for the tournament.
Players are psyched up, keeping in mind that we are the defending champions at the club championships. So we are training, keeping that in mind. We have to do our best. So the morale is high, the competition is also high. We have enough players. The coaches have a pool of players to choose from. So that gives a lot of competition, and that means the level of competition in the team and the standards of the players is also going high. To our fans, to the KCB fans, keep supporting us. We can assure you that we are going to do our best this season.
The Paul Bitok International Tournament, which has been postponed, will resume after the African Club Championships later this month, according to the organizers. Njama Gikomo, KUTV Sports.
Right, that's a wrap up for us. Many thanks for those who made this production a success, and of course for you, our esteemed viewers, for keeping us for the last 50 minutes or so company that we have always enjoyed. Because my name is AUMA Evans. Until next time, bye bye for now. Do have a lovely night.